But
Good evening. Now call to order the meeting of the Newburyport Historical Commission on Thursday, June 11th, 2026. This meeting is being held at the Senior Center and also via Zoom. Please note that this meeting, as all city meetings, is being recorded. The Vice Chair will now call the roll. Andrew Bernhardt.
here,
Okay. Chris Vay.
here,
Ed Neumer.
here,
Glenn Richards.
here,
Mark Sedron.
yes,
Alan Markey. That's a negative. Scott Clark.
yes.
Okay. Chair Bouse? Nope, I guess not. Okay. All right, also present are Andrew Port and Caitlin Sullivan from Planning Department and Gretchen Joy, our note taker. What's that? Oh, and I'm Vice Chair Chris Slato. Sorry, I didn't see my name, but, we're gonna open up, right out of the gate with a public comment, as we don't have any demo delays, which ordinarily would have a period to comment on. So we'll start with an open comment before we get into the agenda. If you wish to speak during the public comment period, you must raise your hand to be recognized. Use the controls in the Zoom application. When you are recognized to speak, you should unmute yourself on your device. Please identify yourself with your name and address, as usual in public meetings. And if you're using a telephone, use *9 to raise and lower your hand, and 6 to mute and unmute. Please remember to lower your hand after you've spoken. So I now open this part of the meeting with public comment. Okay, do we have anybody online?
Look like it now.
No. Okay. We have one from the audience. Would you please state your name and your address, please?
Tom Colbert John, 64 Federal Street. I'd like to comment on two items tonight. One is more personal, and then the other is on a specific project. The specific project is 9 Center Street. I think that they have, and I'm representing the Newburyport Preservation Trust tonight on that particular topic. On 9 Center Street, they've taken a positive step, not demolishing the building. They're going to repurpose it as a garage. We have a mixed result around town. We have 3 or 4 examples of them doing that, developers doing that. Most of them weren't very good. You couldn't recognize them afterwards as having been a house. I'm hoping and I think that they will do a better job on this one. Especially where the entrance is going to be on the rear of the structure. My only caution is that when you do this, that you make it look like a house. I mean, it is a house, it's not gonna be a house. But you certainly have the skills, the ability to make it fit with the street that it exists on. I kind of shudder to think what's gonna happen, and what you're gonna have to do to the building to get the weight. You know, on the first floor, I don't know how you're gonna do that. But at least it's positive, the structure hopefully will look like a historic building. As it is, so that's to the positive, and we'll see what. You know, however it goes, we'll see how that works out. The biggest concern is the 3-story building to the left of it. And slightly, somewhat set back. It's too huge for that street. It just overpowers the 1.5-story buildings that are there. It's out of proportion. It doesn't fit. If you look at the Secretary of Interior standards, I think you'll see that it's excessive. It doesn't belong. It just doesn't fit in the context of the streetscape and historic architecture that's pretty much in that street. So that's pretty much it. I don't have further comments on 9 Central Street, and obviously you have to deliberate and see the changes and so forth. The other one is a little bit more personal, but it's on topic because you have several PRs tonight, preservation restrictions. Our house has what they call a preservation easement on our house at 64 Federal Street, and we just this morning had our 4th annual visit from Historic New England. As part of the PR, they come out every year. They go over any plans that we have, any projects that we've done or partially done. And it's kind of evolved into a very positive, collaborative effort to preserve our house. Because obviously, we're not gonna own it forever and somebody else is gonna have it. So we want it to be preserved. So they come every year. They have, cameras and so forth, and we take pictures, that leak there, did you fix that, or whatever it is. And so it's a kind of a dynamic thing, and they send somebody knowledgeable, and it's helpful. Because we can discuss any topic and raise anything about the building. And so I guess what I would do is say that, and understand that you have lots of preservation restrictions that you're in charge of. And I would just ask you to take that responsibility very seriously, get to know them, and just make sure the right things are being done according to restriction. And I think you have a role, and it would be a very positive role.
Big time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Can anyone else show up online? Comment?
No.
No? Any other comments? Okay, we'll now close the public comment period. Next on the agenda is the DoD advisory review for 9 Center Street. To fill in the commissioners, the applicant, attorney Deshane of Development and Marketing Group, #1 LLC, and the owner Kevin Saba has requested a continuance to the May 20th, 2026 meeting. This is the 4th continuance request. The applicant initially presented the Historical Commission on February 26th, 2026, then requested a continuance from March 12th to March 26th, April 23rd, April 28th, and finally here tonight on June 11th, 2026. The applicant has submitted revised plans. Rather than demolishing the existing structure, the applicant now seeks to convert it to a garage and to construct a new structure for a 4-unit bed and breakfast, requiring a DoD special permit with advisory review by the Newburyport Historical Commission for new construction and modifications to the existing minor contributing structure. For section 37 F, as part of the DoD special permit review process with the planning board, the Historic Commission shall submit a written report to the planning board. Please review section 35, section 37 of the Newburyport zoning code for more information on advisory reports and procedures, requirements, and criteria. Please note that new construction must be compatible with existing historic building and structures, the lot that it's located on, and its setting within the DoD. We have here they are. Okay.
Good evening, Scott Brown, local architect. With me is Nick Cracknell, local planning consultant. Also one of our applicants, Kevin Saba, and Howard Snyder in the back there, our landscape architect. So we were first before you for this application on February 26th, and I think most of you can probably remember it was a bit of a chaotic a meeting, and a lot of it had to do with the lack of clarity with which this board was sort of reviewing the project. And so since then, a lot has happened, including a zoning amendment. So tonight, there is absolute clarity in terms of what, how this commission should be reviewing the application. So we are planning to be before the planning board next Wednesday, June 17th. It's been a minute, since we've done anything on this application. And we would really like it, albeit tight, if this commission was able to sort of produce that advisory letter in time for that planning board hearing. That is, of course, that the commission likes what it sees tonight. So that would be fabulous. So with that, Caitlin, if you could just pull up the proposed, the architectural plans. Okay, so our proposed, this is our proposed architectural site plan. And as already mentioned, one of the major changes to this project, since February 26th, and if you could remember, we've always been proposing this 4-bedroom bed and breakfast, new structure in the back left corner of the lot. But back in February, we were proposing to demolish the existing structure there. We simply didn't think that anyone would see it as a structure worthy of preservation. And at the time, we did have an alternate plan which raised that structure, and we were planning to put back a new 2-car garage because we really felt that something needed to be along the street, that portion of the lot along the street. So the plan is now to preserve that, rehabilitate it, convert it to a 1-car garage. In order to do that, we are proposing to remove a 1-story addition that's located in the back left corner of that. I don't believe that addition is original to this structure, but I can't quite prove that either. The bump out on the right side along the common driveway, we are saving that, and we are going to convert that to a trash area. So in our previous proposal, that trash was going to be at the rear of the lot, and so this now provides us sort of a little convenient place to store the trash. There have been just very, very minor imperceptible adjustments to our new structure. We have had to shift it a little bit to the back of the lot, and this is in large part due to sort of the clearance between that structure and this existing structure. There is currently about 6 feet between those two, 6 feet of clearances, 6 feet of clearance. And we've also had to make adjustments to the entry to the bed and breakfast. You'll see that in a minute. We were previously proposing to have like sort of a covered roof, very traditional looking covered entry with a pair of columns. And we have now changed that to more of a just sort of a door surround, in large part due to sort of like the clearances between the two structures. Parking remains the same, 3 parking spaces in the back, 1 parking space in that 1-car garage. And the owner applicant has the rights to 1 space up front off of Center Street. Next slide, please. So these are proposed floor plans. Some subtle changes to these. The first floor plan is in the lower right-hand corner. We have always had a little bit of a deck off the 2nd floor and a stair from that 2nd floor, mainly about getting a second means of egress from the upper floors. We were previously proposing to have an outdoor patio area under that deck. And in this proposal, we are now planning to convert that to habitable space, and with the door leading off that to the backyard. First floor, similar to what you saw in February, or identical to what you saw in February, there are 2 sort of bedroom suites for the patrons on the first floor. 2nd floor has 1 bedroom suite on the right side for a guest, And half of the second floor is for the owner, and the entirety of the third floor is for the owner as well. And again, entrance to this building is at the front left corner, and that leads to sort of a common stair hall. Next slide, please. So our proposed elevations of the new structure, some very, very minor changes here. We've stripped off some of that detail that we had in our proposal in February, so this is a little bit more cleanly pointed. We've provided a bunch of material notes on the elevations, things that, noting that we're proposing clad, double hung wood windows, fiber cement board siding, noting that we're gonna have a bit of an exposed concrete foundation. So no one is sort of gonna mistake this is the building that's built in 1800. And also on the elevation that's on the top, as you would see it from the driveway, and the lower left-hand corner, that's the main entrance. So this is no longer a covered portico, but entry door with the door surround, and it's offset into the lower left-hand corner, which is not indicative of a historic structure. And then on the bottom, this is the front elevation as you would see it from Center Street, and that deck and that lattice area on the lower left-hand corner, this is nearly identical to what you were seeing in February. It's just that now we're making this enclosed habitable space. Next slide, please. So a rear elevation on the bottom and a left side elevation on the top. Again, some very, very minor changes. You'll see in the lower right-hand corner, we've got a door there, and that's leading to that sort of habitable space underneath the deck. And at the third floor, we are proposing a pair of Bahama shutters there. There were some concerns about privacy for the neighbors, so that was our solution. Put a pair of Bahama shutters on there. And other than adding some material notes, this is sort of very consistent, minus that, some of the detail with what you're seeing in February. No changes to the footprint or height. Next slide, please. So this is, the biggest change to the project. This is the existing structure. The drawing in the lower right-hand corner, this is as you would see it from Center Street. The windows on the second floor are in the same location that they are in now. We have shifted the position of the entry door and doing a more traditional surround around that. We've shifted that door so it aligns with the window on the second floor. In the lower right-hand corner there, we are removing that unsympathetic picture window that currently exists and replacing that with a double hung window that aligns with the window above. We're reworking all of the eaves, but it's pretty much consistent with what's there now. Eave lines are pretty tight, and I don't believe that this structure had a lot of detail back in the day. So what we're proposing from a front elevation standpoint is what I think this thing might have looked like before they started doing that work to it in the 1970s. In the front elevation off to the right there, you'll see a shed roof beyond. We are making a slight roof change to that. That's currently a bit of an ugly hip. So we're taking away that hip and making that a shed. And in that area, we are removing a double hung window there, which seems to be a bit forced. And that's what, is going to be our trash area. The drawing in the lower left-hand corner, this is as you would see it from the left. This is the left side elevation. There's a door leading to that garage space, lower left-hand corner. All three window openings on this side are new in different locations from the existing windows that are currently there. Upper left-hand corner, this is as you would see it from the common driveway. The double hung window in the lower left-hand corner is the existing location of the double hung window that is there. The double hung window that immediately above that aligns with that. That is a new window. We are removing an awning window in the upper right-hand corner of this elevation, and below that, you'll see that's where our proposed trash area is, with a pair of new double doors. And lastly, up on the upper right-hand corner, this is the garage door as you would see it, opposite Center Street from the common parking area. We're adding a little bit of a modern element with a metal roof above that, and a double hung window on the center of the gable. So Tom had a question about how we're actually going to convert this to a garage. Fortunately, I think this is the second structure in town where worked on a project where we've done the same thing. And unlike the last project where we had a basement and we had to fill that up, we're fortunate that this doesn't even have a crawl space. And in fact, there's really we don't even know what's under it. So I think it's going to be very easy to convert this to a garage. We simply cut out the floor frame, fill it in with some compacted structural backfill and pour a slab, and we have ourselves a garage that from the front looks like, a single family. Next slide, please. So our realistic, rendering from the front right corner, just a reminder to everybody that's really hard to get these 100% accurate. And one of the things that you have to take some artistic liberty, with is the landscaping. But I will say that the buildings are rendered correctly. I think the massing scale is in detail, is fairly accurate. But the landscaping here, there's some artistic liberties taken with that. And one of the things, and I think I mentioned this in February, one of the things that we removed here, just for the purposes of the renderings, the sign for the compass roads, and it's certainly not something that, it's not because we're proposing to get rid of it. It's, it just doesn't make sense to put it in our rendering. Common driveway in the right here. Next slide, please. Elevation from the opposite side, front left corner, off to the left there, you can see that, a deck on the second floor that will have some habitable space underneath it. One thing that's a little deceptive about this, and we had this rendered a couple times because it looked a little bit off to me, is how close these buildings are together. Looks a little closer than they actually are. There's 6 feet of space between these two. And the front facade of the bed and breakfast is actually about 6 feet towards Center Street. So they're not, it looks like those two planes, the back plane of the existing house and the plane of the bed and breakfast are in the same plane, but in fact they're not. So a little bit deceptive with regard to that. So and Caitlin, if you could just go forward like 3 slides, I just want to end with like the pictures of the existing house. Front elevation on the lower right-hand corner. In the back right there, you can see that, that hip that we're removing and just making that a shed. Double hung window below that would be removed. The unsympathetic picture window, that's going to be removed and do a more traditional double hung. That front entrance is being shifted to align with the window above. And in the upper 2 photos, immediately in the foreground, that is that single story addition that we're proposing to remove in order to convert this structure to a garage. And with that, providing that my other team members have anything else to add, we'll hand it back to you.
Great, thank you. Commissioners.
Quick question. Was the rendering correct that the parking in the front is brick, but the other stuff is asphalt? Is that what is the call from the plan? See how it looks like it's brick on the left side
Yes,
there,
there's
but
one space right now that is brick, right?
Correct.
And the other 3 spaces are pretty beat up asphalt, so that is what we're hoping to do here.
Okay.
As well as repairing the sidewalk in front.
Scott, the main building, is it sort of inspired by federal architecture, or do you have any
it appears so.
thoughts about that?
It is, I mean, it's trying to be sort of consistent with the massing and scale, for what I think is appropriate for this this property, and we've positioned it, in the back left corner because it is closest to the, structure that is sort of closest in style to what we're doing here, the compass rose in. So this is, very similar in height to the compass rose. I think if you would measure the compass rose, on paper, it is taller, but that's simply because it has that sort of like cupola at the top. But if I think you were to measure both of them to the E line, they're very similar in height. And just, just a word in terms of just some data in terms of like footprint. So, the footprint of this is 26 by 40. Compass rose is 36 feet wide by 36 feet deep, or 26 by 40. The property across the street from this, which is 18 Center Street, and that's the building that is immediately to the right of the Daily News there. That is a 30 by 40 footprint with 2 stories with a hip roof. We're also proposing a hip roof. 9 Center, which is just to the right here. It's like a 1 3/4 story house, but that's got a footprint of 18 by 48. And then the house that you can see off to the left here, the Blue Greek Revival, that has a footprint of 20 by 30. So there's definitely some structures that are in the immediate vicinity that have a bigger footprint than this, and certainly some structures that have a smaller footprint. And I think we've positioned this where it has sort of like the most compatibility with the adjacent structures.
So I'm not so worried about the footprint. I am worried about the height. And continuing the federal theme, would you consider making the height less and conforming to the federal pattern of the third floor being, the second, third floor being shorter, giving the building less height, but still preserving the living space?
So this has been a little bit of a challenge, trying to sort of, set this up so that it has somewhat of a traditional pattern, but not too traditional of a pattern. And so like the windows, gradually get smaller as it goes floor to floor, but each floor level has the same height. So if this is sort of like a new construction house, or even like we're trying to sort of like replicate a federal, the first floor would have a much higher ceiling height and than the upper floors, but we're trying to distribute that height among all 3 floors, so there's some equality between the units.
Is that to say if it was a true federal, you would almost have the same E height?
Yes, but Mark's right, like,
Yeah, no, I know
so
what you're saying.
there's like, first floor is 9, second floor is 8, usually third
And
floor is
these are-
like 7, so. Yeah, but if you add that all up, I think that this is sort of like the overall E height is consistent with, with the federal structure.
Could you explain again the front plane of the bed and breakfast is beyond the back?
Yeah,
of
maybe
the
you can just
White
go
House?
back a few slides, Kate, and look at
Sure.
our site plan.
Okay,
So
so
explain the relationship,
Yeah.
So, 6 feet between structures, and I think I said there's 6 feet between planes, but it sort of looks like there's a little bit less than that. Looks like 4 or 5 feet to me.
So my other question is, Caitlin, can you put the picture of the garage up again, just one of them?
The elevation or photo?
The photos or the illustrations. Yeah, that's perfect. So my understanding of, forgive me if I'm wrong, is that, these were very much like workers, the guys that worked on the ships, these were like workers' cottages, right? Would you think that the house would have had as, it's a beautiful front door, but is that the front door that you would think would have been there? Or is that you're just Is it,
Well, what we're showing is just sort of a traditional 6-panel door.
okay,
The only other thing I could imagine going there is sort of sometimes you see a door that's sort of like a vertical slat door, but, yeah, like a storm door, but there's almost always like another sort of more decorative door behind it, so the answer to your question is, I think that's probably the right door for this. And to your point, I don't think it's particularly, too fancy, for a worker's cottage.
Yeah, I think that's my sense that that's what he's getting at, maybe the setting of the door, the surround, yeah. I mean,
Oh, the surround, yeah.
Maybe a little too elegant, but I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying maybe that's what
Oh,
he's trying to get at.
we could say that.
well, what?
You may have a point there, yeah.
Yeah, what's the
Maybe
goal?
strip down a bit, yeah.
Well, I think it's beautiful, I just don't know if it, is the goal to be true to the history of what is likely what history of the cottage would have been.
Yeah.
And I think it's, on balance, I think it's great, so,
Well, ultimately, there's a little bit of guesswork.
Yeah, I don't think, there's no documentary evidence.
Yeah, and I suspect, given the history of the property, and I think when in February, we presented a bunch of like Sanborn maps and assessors maps, and this was owned by somebody, 2 doors down, and I think this could have been a stable, based upon that. I know some people disagree with me, but it's just such an odd
Yeah,
structure, it just feels like it might have always been an accessory structure, to me. Because just doesn't really exist anywhere else in town.
you mean like the footprint and this, like the scaling of it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'm correct, I mean,
no,
does it exist
it might
anywhere
be
else?
interesting to see when this, if and when this comes to pass, what you find when you start trying to, redo the foundation or all that, you might find something interesting,
Yeah.
who knows?
I've got a few comments, in regards to, Mark's comment about the height of it. And also in regards, Scott, not comparing it, but having next to Compass Rose. Compass Rose was built in 2004. This is now the second Federalist style looking house in the area. And the original Federalist house would be 10 Center Street, which is brick and 2 stories. Not 3-story Federalist as we know them, like what you would see up in High Street that would be square or rectangular that are up to 3 stories. And I'm just in a neighborhood where the building of 10 Center was one of probably the bigger ones that's probably existing on the street now, as well as the one that's across the street, which actually used to be an old school. I just feel that the massing, the size of it is just that next to the Compass Rose it's like these 2 giant buildings in an otherwise very kind of smaller neighborhood area. It's my concern. Commissioners, thoughts?
I don't know. I don't quite feel that way, it feels like it'll be like,
All right.
that's my.
Right, in the books that you guys got about the Secretary of Interior standards, this is what they say about new constructions. This is also in the zoning, and the structure is being built in a national register. Okay, so this isn't some town up in Hamilton or any place. This is on Newburyport, the National Register. The downtown overlay district, and it says the new construction and alterations must be compatible with existing historic buildings and structures within the DOD. New construction and alterations within the DOD shall not disrupt the essential form and integrity of the subject historic building, structure, or exterior architectural features, or the lot where it's located, or its setting within the DOD. Moreover, new construction and alteration within the DOD shall be compatible with the size, scale, height, color, except for paint color, material and character of the subject historic building, structure, or exterior architectural feature, or the lot where it is located, as the case may be. So this was my concern, that the Secretary of Interior standards very clearly say that the house needs to be compatible with the neighborhood. And I think a 3-story Federalist newly built next to a almost newer built Federalist that's, property over, it's a bit much for that neighborhood, and it's gonna fundamentally change the streetscape, is my concern. Anyone else feel the same, or?
I'm a little torn, because I was just gonna say, it's an interesting street, little street, right? It's got, as you said, 10 Center Street, which has gone through different iterations of restaurants. It's got. So I was trying to look it up, because you don't journey down Center Street too often, at least I don't. The proposed bed and breakfast, what's there now? I wasn't at the last meeting, so I apologize, but way back. So
It's an empty portion of the lot.
okay, so that's the other, like, this seems to be a street that's got a parking lot at one end, right on Walker Street. It's got newspaper, it's got vacant lots, it's got. It's it's a bit of a mixed, like,
Needs some help.
puddle in the middle of. Some very nice houses and very nice neighborhoods. I don't. Like, the rendering looks great. I don't understand, and I don't wanna get into like why it's going from being torn down to a garage instead of just being a house, but I don't wanna go down that route. So I'm torn about, like, is this an improvement on a vacant lot? It's too big, and I understand it's gonna be a business. Tom's right, the massing is too big. Does it overwhelm the neighborhood in that street where it's just an odd little street? I'm just gonna say, it's an odd little street. Now, this way, you've got like modern condos, types of things that were built, I don't know, maybe in the 80s, right?
70s,
Yeah. And you've got the wood shop, that was a guitar shop, was something else. Now another vacant lot, and it's a commercial, sort of on the edge of the commercial, for the heart and soul of the city, so. That's just my 2 cents. I'm kind of torn.
Could I just add some statement to that? Because I think we get loud and clear what everybody's struggling with in terms of what's the right fit here. I think if you look at that block at about 400 feet between Liberty Street and Water Street, there's more than half of it that's missing, right? Been taken down, urban renewal or something in that era. Obviously, at some point, the whole Liberty Street lot is going to be redeveloped, that abuts this behind and beside the parking lot. That's across from those 1980 condos that are probably, they're out of scale. They're very tall buildings there they meet the zoning. We're not here to argue what the zoning allows. These all meet the zoning. But we know the Daily News is likely to be replaced at some point in the near future. That's a big site from Abraham's all the way to Center and back to the abutting house. I think it's about 16,000 square feet or half an acre. So two-thirds of this block has been removed and over time, and it's going to be rebuilt. And these questions are going to be a struggle for everybody moving forward. We've got these tiny little jewel boxes like this house that is still sitting here. I think what we've tried to do successfully is step this building back. The parking obviously prohibits it from being brought forward to the street edge to hold the street wall. That building in that location and that footprint is clearly deferential to that historic structure that's being preserved, despite it being much taller. The Compass Rose is there. It was built in the 80s rather than 2004. It's one of Al's first buildings, I think, that was put downtown. As Scott said, it is a bigger footprint. It's not the standard of which this building was designed, but it's certainly part of the context. And I think the Compass Inn works because it's set back so far from Center Street. It's fairly large on Pike Street and behind. But it works on that tiny little street, and that street's really a one-way street in terms of its width, it's very narrow. So I think what's gonna be very interesting for the entire neighborhood and the city over time in the next 20 years is how all these spaces are going to be redeveloped. And I think it's highly unlikely everything's gonna be a 2.5 or a 2-story structure, given the code is not set up for a 25-foot height. This was a very urban dense neighborhood, albeit not full of these 3-story federal buildings. But the building that sat on this site, if you drive by it today, you can still see the footings and the foundation. They just removed the building and backfilled it. In that parking area at the front of the site, you can see a very large foundation at the front of the prior house. It was probably a foundation. I did not bring the numbers because I didn't expect it to come up, but the footprint of the house that was removed at some point in the 40s or 50s, I have a photograph of it on the phone, is as big as this. And I know we're talking height, not footprint, but that building was a large, very large 2.5-story structure that sat in that opening between the little house on the right that's going to be converted to the garage and restored, and the Compass Inn site on the left. It was a very large building there, not 3 stories, but a large 2.5-story building. And I have a photo of it if anybody wants to see it.
What was it, Nick?
Probably
Can we take a look at the
colonial.
photo?
I can pass it around, yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
mind?
Yep.
Pass me a phone.
So,
Yeah.
since you asked for our opinion,
Yeah.
Chris,
Yeah.
No,
you
sorry.
know, our obligation is to submit a report to the planning board. It's gonna be their call ultimately. And I think as you can hear, and what I'm hearing too, is that we're all kind of going back and forth and struggling a bit. Because I think on the one hand, it's an improvement over in a bigger lot and it's nicely executed.
Mhm.
On the other hand, it's kind of large, you know, massing is kind of high. I think that, I'm not sure if it was set back mainly for other reasons like parking or whatever, or to mitigate the size difference. But I think that is an effective way to do that. In other words, pushing it back like that. Even in this rendering, this rendering makes it, you can see it's obviously significantly taller than the original structure down the right. But the other rendering from the other angle, because of the geometry of the way you're viewing it from a person's, you know, normal standing height, you wouldn't seem all that much higher at all. So it's, you know, it's not awful. It's not terrible. In fact, in many ways, it's nice and an improvement. So I think, you know, but for our report, I do think Biff will, if assuming Biff is writing it, will, you know, we'll need to somehow capture some of what we were concerned about and some of the arguments you made, Chris, about, you know, does this, how, you know, I think you're right. It says it's gotta be compatible to surroundings and all that. That's what it
Try to
says.
pass it.
But of course, there's a certain amount of opinion there, but as far as is it compatible or not, right? It's not like,
Right.
so they can plug in a number and come up with yes or no, you know,
Mhm.
it's a bit of judgment involved, so. But I think we should share,
Somebody
you
from
know,
the
those
library.
concerns with the planning board, so that they
Yeah.
know about them.
Right.
And, you know, see what happens. But, I guess if I was to tip on one side of the fence or the other, I tip towards that overall, it's an improvement of what's there now, and it's not the way that, I guess Scott, I assume you're the one who designed it all, the way the way you've done it, I mean, it's pretty good. You know, so what more can I say? So that's it, eh?
So it looks like the footprint for this house on your phone
Is
was,
a little farther forward. You'll.
but
see-
also larger, like,
Yeah.
Okay, so Center
It's a
Street
big
is
house.
going like this,
Yes. 2 big chimneys in that house.
so the eave was facing the street, the gable ends were,
Correct.
okay. Yeah,
a little bit forward, but maybe a neighbor to the house, the white, we'll call it the White House.
You can see that house in there, the White House. Yeah, it's, I think, red in there.
This is center right here.
And the arrow is at
Kind of,
the house.
this is the house.
Yeah,
it's about-
this is the radio
so
here.
Center Street's going like this,
Uh-huh.
is it Merrimack, or water rather, in center. So here's the subject, that makes sense. Like the 10 Center Street would be like, I guess, over here.
I mean, I just say one more thing in relation to, is that you're right, like there's parking lots and vacant lots and maybe buildings that won't 50 years, 40 years from now. But I think we have a personal opinion, we have a responsibility on this commission to make sure that some of the mistakes that happened in the 70s and 80s don't happen again.
Exactly.
And we could drive around and point to a lot of places where, at the time, urban renewal, call it, this was an improvement on what was there. We don't know what was there, maybe it burned, maybe it fell apart, maybe there's still plenty of buildings. Weird buildings that seem to be like abandoned and decaying down along the rail trail, you know, across the street to and back from this area. But I don't think we want like 80 style or whatever you want to call it, maybe it's 2080 by the time they get to it. But that sort of style, like, because next thing you know, you got, as I said before many times, like fad and fashion are just that. And there's nothing fad and fashion about the White House or the houses I dare say that many of us live in, right? There's a reason that we moved here, reason why we're on this commission. And I get daily concerned that like a vacant lot up for sale to be built on, fine. A house that, again, I wasn't here, but it sounds like we're gonna tear that down because it's we don't see it as very, very valuable. It's a historic complexion of the city. Then that means everything's up for grabs. Ultimately, everything is up for grabs, everything becomes a real estate deal. And the only people that don't have a stake in that monetarily are the people that are sitting around this table. We just are trying to do the right thing.
Totally get it.
So I know people get upset. I know this is, you know, it's America, there's money to be made and stuff like that, but there's a, you know, to quote again, Malcolm, who's not here, can't be here. There's plenty of other places in the country and the state that you can do stuff like that. Build, develop, and make your money. You really need to do it here.
Totally.
I'm mixed on the bed and breakfast, but I understand that maybe there's a need for bed and breakfast. I don't know.
So Chris, totally get it. I think if that building was there and not removed for whatever reason it was removed, you'd probably want to keep that building that's missing. So we created a gap tooth effect in the street.
Yeah.
That gap behind that parking is doing nothing for that streetscape and the street wall and the historic character of the city.
I agree.
And if that building was there, that's 3 times the size of the one that is still there, you'd probably want to keep it. So.
That's true.
It's reminiscent of the gap tooth argument is reminiscent of the Merrimack Street.
Exactly. They're going up there. Yeah, kids.
Ed. Haven't heard, you've been quiet on that. You with us? What do you think?
I'm sort of on the fence too on this one, Chris. I'm not sure. I do think that it's too high. That's just it. Too high. Simple. That I don't think we need to talk in circles. That's it.
Okay. Any other final comments, questions?
No, I like that we're keeping the old structure. And it's not a bank. And it's not a, you know, and that's a concern of mine. It's not something that really doesn't belong. And I think it's a good compromise.
I would also like to see a little density on that street. It's not really the purview of the historical commission, but density on that street will be a benefit to the street on overall.
And sort of to the discussion, Chris Day's comment about you get this creep, right? My issue would be the height. So you talk about the areas where it's creep, so the height has to come down, or that becomes the new height, and then the next one is just a little bit higher than that one. So I think there's gotta be, you've gotta determine.
They're within their zoning.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's fair. A lot of people are gonna be doing on those vacant lots, 3-story buildings. I like the character of downtown. This is downtown Newburyport.
This is a district where 40 feet is allowed.
And there's 32. Yeah,
40 feet high
yes.
is allowed. Okay.
Yeah.
Where is this one?
32.
Yes, is that like that average measurement that they use?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Midpoint.
Yeah, the midpoint.
And 30 at the.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Speak now. Okay. Anyone like to make a motion to approve either the chair or the vice chair to provide the planning board with a written historical report summary of 9 Center Street?
Excuse me, I'll make that motion, the chair or the vice chair. Right, said report.
Okay.
I'm happy to second it.
Okay. All right, we will, just write this down, let's take a vote. Andy Bernhardt,
Yes.
Chris Fay,
Yes.
Ed Neumer,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Alan's not here. Scott,
Yes.
Chair Brennan Spouse, and Vice Chair votes yes, so that passes. We will be making that report. Thank you. Okay, on to general business. We have 269 Water Street. And this is actually a 2009 preservation restriction that was never notarized or recorded from 17 years
You
ago.
were on the commission back then, Mr. Spade.
So, what they're looking for is a affirmatory signature vote is needed. And then it was also, let's see, authorizing the chair to endorse restriction and then incorporating exhibit B. Is that the idea?
Correct, which we did not see attached at the
Okay.
provided to us.
All right. With this preservation restriction, oh, sorry.
That's right.
With this preservation restriction, typically there's pictures that go along with it, that seems to be a discussion of where they might be. But you're the owner, okay. Well, you state your name and address.
Yeah, Mark Rowland, 269 Lake Street.
Okay. What do you have for us?
I'm sorry?
There was a question before about exhibit B, that was the pictures.
The attachment was not provided.
Yeah.
Right, we don't have that.
Yeah, I had my lawyer did this together, and I don't think he probably caught that, but we have plenty of pictures.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No question about it.
All right, yeah, because,
17 years ago, we still haven't.
well, that would be good. I mean, we could have the ones at the time that
Yeah.
that the restriction, the preservation restriction was put in place, as well as a couple of modern ones if they want, if necessary, but that would be great. Yeah, so, let's see. So,
Essentially a confirmatory vote, given that the commission already previously has, another composition
Yeah.
of this body looked at it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
You know,
So we can't, we're not in a position to actually change anything, we're just basically saying, yeah, oops.
that's sort of the premise, is that this
Yeah.
body already looked at this, these
Okay.
were terms sort of previously discussed and whatnot, and then it's largely closing a loop on,
Right.
but. Again, it's, none of us prohibit this or.
No,
or that, so.
I don't know where the ball got dropped, but I mean, I agreed and had it notarized, and then I went on to the commission.
is anyone curious where 269 Water Street is?
We looked it up.
What is it?
We don't remember.
What is it?
Well, I would say a former clam shack.
That's right. Those notorious clam shacks that are down in Joppa, on one of the few that are remaining.
Yeah.
It's a restriction on them.
Yeah.
Well, I started that. I mean, I voluntarily went to the, went to get it,
Reserved or.
well, to get residency.
Yeah.
I went ahead and, started that strategy,
Right.
agreeing because there was a noise in the audience that I was gonna put a second story on it. And
Uh,
they were trying to prevent, it was, another person wanted to also buy it, and the claimers were sold to them, they were sold to me.
Oh, okay.
Across the street. I restored the house across the street, and I got to know them and all that, and they were gonna sell it to me, and they was people were trying to resist my neighbors, one neighbor, I should say. And, so I thought the best thing to do was go to the historical committee and say, look I mean, the value of the clam shack is the clam shack. So to change it and put a story on it, that would be stupid.
Yeah.
And anyway, so that's what we did, and I agreed and we wrapped it up, I thought. So,
Okay, well, I'm sure, shortly in the future, one of us or we'll get together with you and try to get copies of the pictures and get them all put together in one and then, do the confirmatory signature. Oh, on a side note, anyone who reads literature, those clam shacks were the inspiration for H.P. Lovecraft's Shadow of Innsmouth. What Innsmouth looked like. And when he was here in 1929, when there were whole rows of them and
7 years.
the place was kind of not wonderful,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Pretty basic Innsmouth on. So it's good that they're. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the confirmatory signature preservation restriction for the structure on 269 Water Street, as well as authorizing the chair to endorse the restriction and incorporating exhibit B back into the preservation restriction.
So move.
Who's that? Okay, Mark, okay.
That's cheating.
All that on track.
Second, all right, very good. Andrew, second, okay. Andrew Bernhardt,
Yes.
Chris Fay,
Yes.
Ed Norman,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Mark Sedron,
Yes.
no from Al Marquis, Scott Clark.
Yes.
Biff Dawson absent, and I vote yes in the affirmative, so the motion passes.
Hopefully the ball rolls like.
Yeah, we'll-
it took 3 years in court to get to that degree. So,
yeah.
and the city of Boston threw it out. They said, it says he can do what he wants, not knowing that you can't do it too much. But the judge at that time said that it's his and blah, blah, blah. They've taken old factories and churches and fire stations and repurposed them. You know, so it's kind of ridiculous. And plus it won an award of reconstruction. I mean, rehabilitation award with this committee years ago, when I first started to redo it. They gave me an award. It's like, did it exactly the way it was supposed to be done. So, not knowing it was gonna be, you know, under a microscope. But anyway,
Can I have your name again?
yeah, it's Mark Roland, R-O-L-A-N-D.
Mark Roland, okay. All right, good, yeah, we'll be in contact soon to get the pictures put together and we'll
Yeah, anything-
get this figured out.
Yeah. We
You
certainly appreciate
can
your
take a tour, you can
contribution.
take a tour too and see it.
Yeah, I'd love to, I'd love to. I mean, I've just seen the old pictures from the turn of the
Yeah.
century.
Yeah,
And,
well, the inside's a little, you know, not gonna be the same.
well,
Yeah.
that's gotta be some sort of
Smells
amenities. Smells good.
So, but it has the charm, it has the charm, and
Yeah.
I get a lot of people that walk by and, you know, they used to work there and shop clams, actually,
Right,
grandparents and all that. So,
right, very
all
good.
right.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah, thank
Thanks for
you.
coming in.
Thanks.
Okay, next up is
Draft PR. for
the
Brown.
draft PR for Brown School. Your review.
We have both Zena and Dan presenting, where they left, I think, all members here, are part of the same, discussion we had last time on this, right? So you've seen the project to date, and I think it's sort of an update here, but then talking about the elements of the preservation restriction itself from there. Zena and Dan, do you want to present to the commission your?
Yes. Thank you, Andy. Good evening. My name is Zena Talje. I'm with Zeta Insight, the sponsor for the Brown School redevelopment. We have a presentation here that kind of takes you a little bit through what we've done to date, where we're at, and then I'm going to hand it over to Dan to walk you through the exterior design and details. But please feel free to let me know what would be the most effective way to kind of give you this information, because I don't have a great sense about how much detail you want to hear out of us today. Do you think we have 15 minutes, Andy, or does that sound like a good amount of time? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll try to run through my piece in like 5 minutes and give the rest of the time to Dan because he has the good stuff, the design stuff. Next slide, please. We have a great team that's been working on the Brown School for the last year and a half, and we've made tremendous progress, and I'll go to the next slide. into getting to sort of what we envision this building to be. With the help of the city, the demolition of the gymnasium and the boiler room, which were two non-contributing elements, has really paved the way for us to, at this point, following funding approval, to come and really embark on completing this project. Next slide. The project, in terms of an overview, is still the same as what we presented to you from the beginning. It's all one bedrooms, all contained within the footprint of the existing Brown School. We've increased a little bit the affordability margin up to units 50% AMI or less. But it's been sort of consistent from the beginning. It's 100% affordable, financed through low-income housing tax credits. Maloney Property Management will be taking on the operations and lease up of the project, and the project would be contributing to the tax revenue of the city and the Affordable Housing Trust committed funds that helps us show a significant contribution from the city to the state. In addition to the funds contributed towards the demolition of the existing gymnasium. Next slide, please. I think I kind of talked a little bit about all of the things that we've done to date, but one thing to touch on is the reason we're here today is because we are looking to complete our site permit review and close out our zoning requirements, our zoning and permitting requirements by August of this year per the purchase and sale agreement that Zeta Insight entered into with the city of Newburyport. And part of that process involves getting a preservation restriction draft that you're all in agreement with, so that at the time of closing, when we are finally funded, we can record that preservation restriction. One thing to note, this project is seeking historic tax credits, which means that we go through a rigorous approval process with the National Park Service and the Mass Historic Commission. We have received parts 1 and part 2 approvals with some conditions, minor, primarily around looking at final shop drawings for our windows. And funds would not be released for all of our tax credits until we get certified in a part 3 approval following completion. So there's just a lot of moments and checks and audits that happen to everything that we do historically, and we have to comply with all the regulations. Next slide, please. So I want to kind of quickly touch base here on timeline. We submitted an application to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities requesting state and federal low-income housing tax credits. We were told that our application is very strong, and we do believe that that's really the case because of the process of having worked with the city and the mayor's office, and because of all the work that had also happened in the past, identifying the importance of preserving the Brown School. But our work also falls right in line with that desire, as well as to provide affordable housing. So we're hoping that we will hear back from EOHLC by August of this year. And if we do, we're hoping to close in the spring of next year. If that doesn't happen and we have to go into another round of funding, you just have to push the entire schedule out about 9 months. Next slide, please. The preservation restriction, as you know, is really an outline of what was being preserved and protected, as well as all of the key requirements in case certain events happen or any alterations. The draft that I think you have received is based on a draft document that the city of Newburyport was comfortable with, that we altered so that we would reflect the structure of the Brown School. Because the Brown School has a few moving parts, including the removal of some existing structures that were deemed non-contributing, I think it was important to tweak the language and define it clearly. But frankly, from having seen the last rounds of comments that came to us a few days ago, we believe that it's going to be pretty straightforward to complete, to really finalize the document in terms of our comments and the city's comments and your comments, because I think we're all on the same page. The next step would be following finalizing the document internally between us is to send it to MHC for their legal counsel to review. And after that, any adjustments would be brought back to you. And finally, the PR would be recorded at closing. Following issuance of the site permit, it would be conditional, and then at closing, it would be final. Andy, please jump in if you think the process, I just wanted to sort of highlight the steps here because it's slightly a little bit more complicated than just maybe the typical PR process.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think from our process here, we definitely want the historic commission to review it first, right? The planning board's gonna want to hear that you're comfortable with all the terms that are in the PR. And then obviously we want to align with that as well, the council sponsorship, right? So the city council has to review these are complicated documents, they take a lot of process, unfortunately, in time. But to run it through that process where planning board can know that the PR aspect of that project, the redevelopment has been addressed. A major component of it. Everything else, I think, is sort of in order because we see the plan, we know what the building is, we know what the parking space is going to be, we know there's going to be landscaping and whatnot. Really nice plan. But at the end of the day, knowing that everything is in order here is always the first step, and then we have to send off to MHC. They might have some other tweaks and things like that, but this is following a routine, template. So.
Quick question, you said, so you said is based on one that, as like one of the recent approved ones, what happened to one, what it was based on?
Yeah, I don't remember which one you, do you remember Zaina or Kaylin, do you remember which one we might have, again, it's template driven.
One that was approved.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we normally will send over the most recent one, occasionally there's some sort of variation, but usually they're template driven, so we send over the most recent one, and that the commission had actually reviewed and approved in its entirety. So it's basically modified up that template.
Yep. Thank you, Andy, for all of that. I know that you have a few extra steps internally, and we're trying to also coordinate with MHC. I'll just kind of say the preservation restriction deals primarily with the exterior of the building, but this is a project that requires a full gut rehab that will have whole new building systems, an interior skin wall with new storm windows on the inside. I mean, it's a pretty elaborate historic renovation. But I'm going to pass it along to Dan to really walk you through the exterior and share with you some of the details. There's a lot of information, so please feel free to also ask us to speed it up or move along into the areas that you would like to focus on. I asked Dan to focus on the windows because I sense that that might be an area of interest. Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Zaina. I'm Dan Riggs. I'm the architect on the project with Embark. And yeah, happy to walk through more details. So we can go to the next slide. If it's possible to go full screen, that would be helpful too. Yeah, thank you. So as Zaina mentioned, it's really largely consistent. All of the major bullets here are consistent and have been from really day one of the project. But excited to show you a few of the areas that we've developed further in our revised renderings based on our landscape plan. That will be going through site plan review as well. If we go to the next slide. Just want to hit on really the bottom two bullets here are the ones that have been updated as we've gone through the process with the various agencies that are reviewing the building. So really, part of the accessibility and the review from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, that enhanced level of accessibility. Really every unit on this project will have a higher level of accessibility than your typical apartment. And they'll all be essentially wheelchair accessible with generous kitchen spaces and bath spaces. We'll have roll-in showers for tenants. And then beyond that, 10%, it's typically 5% is the requirement. On this, we'll have 10% of units will have full accessibility for folks who have accessibility issues. And another important thing to note here at the bottom bullet, but all utilities will be included with the rent to really help reduce that burden and the inconsistency of that you can see as a tenant from that perspective. If we go to the next slide, please. So now we'll just walk through a few of these existing condition photos of the building. We're really excited to see this, have life breathed into it again, to be able to see all of these windows that are currently boarded up, and to repair and refurbish the exterior of this building. So starting here, this is just an existing photo of the rear of the building and along Milk Street. If we go to the next slide. Here you can really see from that demo that's been done to the non-contributing pieces, that cafeteria connector piece in the gym, really the ability to open up sight lines to this facade, which is really the most historic piece of that existing building facade, and really be able to experience that from the public right of way is really exciting to see that development happen. If we go to the next slide. Just a note on some of the details of the building. There's a lot of these wonderful details that are inherent to the structure that we're really excited to preserve, including a number of these sort of epitaphs that are inscribed in these cast stone elements of the building. And then just while we're looking at this image, a big component of the exterior restoration will be the repointing, regrouting of brick, the restoration of any elements that require it as we go around the exterior, and then repairs to that copper cornice that really is a wonderful existing feature of the building. If we go to the next slide. Our civil engineer, Paul Avery, was generous enough to take some drone photographs here. I think you really see just how much more open the site is. So if we go to the next slide, there'll be a few more angles of these drone shots. If we go to the next slide, so just hitting on the high level points of our site plan, I'll go through landscape a bit further, but highlighting in blue that new addition, about 1,100 square feet that we've had planned for the building, which creates accessibility for the structure, a new front door, essentially, and really connects that new parking area that you see at the southern end of the plan with the residential experience in the interior. Here you can also see that we've preserved a connection through, so you really see the extent of where the previous site was. So just still thinking of that somewhat as a single experience and allowing this connection to happen across through the site. So that people can still experience that kind of full grandeur of the Brown School site. If we go to the next slide, please. And here's a revised rendering with our updated landscape plan of that front entry point here. And you can see one thing to note here as well, that one thing that we're doing with our site plan is widening these sidewalks along Lime Street. So really improving that pedestrian experience along that way, and also adding some street trees here as well, and really you can see the ability for us to really improve the view sheds around the site by revising that area that's really all asphalt now and creating a wonderful new open space. If you go to the next slide. So touching on some of the elements from our elevations here, that top slide is the north elevation. That's the Milk Street elevation. Really, the entire center of that is the 1974 non-contributing piece of the facade. One thing to note there, the existing windows were not conforming with the egress requirements for residential structure, so we are replacing those with a much better performing window and one that fulfills that requirement. You can also see here in this detail on the right, that new infill brick panel. There were later louvers that were added to the building as part of the 1974 renovation work, which will be removing and then installing in accordance with NPS standards, this new infill brick moment that's partially inset to allow it to also be recognized as not of the original building, but we've taken a lot of pains to really color match the tonality and the material qualities of that brick to what's existing on the building now. The elevation on the bottom, this is the elevation from the rear, that new open side of the building that's really been opened to the public experience with the addition at the bottom. And really the same concept as we presented previously of sort of doing a slightly more contemporary take on the base language of the building, continuing that language of that sort of rusticated base, which we're using as a board and batten solution for the new exterior to sort of play off of that and harmonize with it. And we've taken a lot of pains with the new windows there to also have them really share the proportionality of the existing historic windows. So we want there to be harmony between those elements. And we'll get into the windows in just a moment as well, but here highlighting that, we're refurbishing these existing 1924 windows. It's been a huge part of the project. And just want to highlight those 3 ones in yellow are places where the existing windows don't exist currently or have been replaced with a non-historic replica window. So in each of those conditions that have been highlighted, we'll be replacing that window with one that conforms and matches the historic windows that are adjacent to it. And just to note as well, as we go through NPS and MHC review, they will be continuing to follow up on the windows and really doing a final review of those as they've been installed. Just throughout the project, there'll be a lot of scrutiny on that from all of those other agencies as well. If we go to the next slide. So the remaining elevations of the building, these 2 short ends, really the same story of refurbishing these windows and repairing the brick and repointing. If we go to the next slide. So more information about the windows, and this has really been an iterative process for us. We've gotten to know the building quite well over the last several years, and the windows have been an iterative process for us. And we're really excited on where we've sort of landed through that process. So really what we're doing with these windows, all of the existing original windows from the 1924 building will be repaired, rehabilitated, refinished, reinstalled in the building. They'll be removed, restored off-site, de-leaded, repaired to match their historic properties. While that's being done, there'll be historically appropriate weatherproofing that's updated within the existing window cavities as required. We'll be installing new storm windows on the interior. This is potentially a change from the last time we spoke, but really that move to put the storms in the interior of the unit creates a really great window detail there. It's it creates a much better performance for the windows that really brings them up to matching close to what our new windows will be. Locating them on the interior also makes it easier for the seniors that will live here to operate those windows as opposed to having them on the outside. And it will be much more in keeping with the existing or really the historic look from the exterior of seeing the 1924 windows primarily from the exterior of the building. And then just to clarify as well that we will be leaving all of these windows as operable. They'll all remain operable in the project. If we go to the next slide. So just to highlight some landscape elements here. So the existing aerial, just, we've always noted that the site is really largely asphalt now. There's a number of curb cuts. So this is a great chance to consolidate those, create a much clearer pedestrian pathways for the neighborhood, as well as to create this really wealth of new landscaping and green space on site. So if you go to the next slide, please. Our updated landscape plan here. So you can just see the abundance of green that we're adding to this area. There's a number of spaces within the site for residents. We have this sort of lush green lawn here that's really a passive recreation moment in this hardscape area here that directly spills out from our community spaces within the building and becomes this generous place for the residents to congregate in the exterior of the building. And again, that connection through the site, just allowing some connectivity and that continuous use of the site that we've seen. If you go to the next slide, so this will be just a tip down aerial showing that a better sense of the scale of that space. It really becomes this generous and wonderful outdoor space for the citizens to be able to, or the tenants rather, to be able to congregate. If you go to the next slide, please. So again, just to reiterate on the Lime Street facade here, this is the existing conditions as we started the project, and really coming a long way. If we go to the next slide, that our proposed final rendition of this with the landscaping installed, really improving this whole corner of the neighborhood. And we can go to the next slide with that, and that's our presentation. So happy to answer any other questions that you may have. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thank you. Commissioners.
quick question. Quick question, on those yellow spots where you're gonna replace windows, you said you're gonna, did you have actual documentation to know what you said you were gonna replicate what was original, is what it sounded like?
Oh,
So did you find photographs or some kind of documentation as to what they originally were?
So for this window, for instance, here, we were matching the window that's directly adjacent to it, and we do have the full blueprints of the building as they were originally designed. They're gorgeous blueprints. They're very, very fun for me to look at. Nerded out over those quite a bit, and we're using those to understand what that mullion pattern.
Yeah, I was thinking those two big ones, those two large ones.
Yeah, so those are shown in those existing blueprints.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What is that, a stairwell or something that's there?
Both of those are stairwells inside of the building. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just one quick comment on the actual PR. Andy, I'm not sure I saw that there's a subordination clause, about the PR had to, be like first among the various any possible mortgages or liens or whatever.
Oh,
Was it missing or did I just?
Can I,
we hadn't let, yeah, go ahead.
Can I comment on, because the PR won't be recorded until closing, the lenders and everybody who's involved in the financing is going to be, it's like everything happens in that same moment, so everything will be subordinate to it. Like the closing is conditional to the PR. So the attorneys, I mean, I asked the same question and that's what the attorneys told me. It will be, especially for a publicly funded project, there's going to be a lot of subordinates, everything from the state funding to, there'll be like a list of 12 entities. Yeah.
Okay.
If we're to be done that.
tax credits required.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No. I just have a small thing. I brought this up before, and it's the bear that's on the front of the Oak Street side. It's a piece of art, and I just want it to either be preserved where it is, or returned to the artist.
Yeah, I mean, Zaina's team has been working cooperatively with the city and with Kim Turner and the Parks, Division, DPS. We've salvaged items from the site. There are some things that are still physically there, things that were either in the playground park space, that's going to be retained, or on the school property that's being, surplus here for adaptive reuse. So it's totally understood that those things, there's also a few benches and some things that are still out there that haven't been salvaged or moved, temporarily somewhere else for protection. And we've worked with Zaina. The idea here is that those will be integrated, protected, maintained on site or whatnot. But possibly, depending on the particular, it might be relocated to some other location on the site. I don't know, Zaina, I can't recall off the top of my head the discussion of that particular item. It's movement or replacement.
Sorry. If you go to slide 16.
It's metal.
I can show a little bit more detail of that. And then we just zoom in here.
I just don't want it thrown away. That's all.
There's you can see our landscape architect has included that. I think they may have not had the CAD symbol for a bear, but this symbol is meant to denote that staying in place.
I just don't want it thrown away. That's all.
No, appreciate that.
And they were
He's
very
a
minimal.
well-known artist, and he did it because that was his son and my son.
Yeah.
They were the last ones to graduate.
Yeah, no, we certainly understand that some of those things are, for sure, yeah.
But I think legitimately, a piece of original art.
Yeah, and there are some other things too that people aren't seeing today that was salvaged off-site for protection, so like the gargoyles that were out there, or the blocks with the circular seating that was out there. There's a few other items, but
I mean, it's a lovely presentation, but we'd like to know some specifics about what exactly is involved in the PR. We're giving some nice.
Sorry, when you say
details.
When you say involved in the PR, sorry.
I mean, in terms of preservation, it'd be nice to have certain specific details, such as the one that Chris points out, that we make sure are preserved. It's not the only thing. There are other parts, architectural.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If maybe I'm not understanding, we talked about the windows, we talked about the building exterior, the brick, right? We talked about some of the details and elements that are on there, text and whatnot.
It'd be nice to have a list, is what I was saying.
Okay, so you're saying you'd like to have a little bit more of a sort of a listing in the preservation section that tabulates, sort of summarizes at least some of these, a little bit more than. So Zaina and Dan, maybe we could just take a look at that aspect of it, see if we can sort of itemize just some of those elements. Do you want to have a sort of a call out of some of those things that are salient? Okay. Any questions about that, Zayda or Dan? If obviously the idea here is to circle back with one markup version with any kind of comments or thoughts that we've obtained. I think the idea here was just to kind of spell out, sort of like a summary bullet list, maybe somewhere in there, some of these items that are being captured.
I mean, I think the key here is that I'll be honest with you, the lawyers reviewed it. I mean, I think to me it's a legal document, and the photographs are a very important part of it in terms of what's being preserved. You
And
know,
the idea is that the photographs are capturing each of those.
yeah, so we can
elements.
absolutely, scrutinize the photos. If there's anything that you think is not shown, absolutely, we can mention it. For example, one area we wanted to make sure was clear was that this PR had the lobby addition, which is that small area that Dan showed you on the site plan in blue, is part of this approval process because it is an alteration. I think it is interesting when you're dealing, and I'm sure you go through this all the time. The PR is preserving a structure, but we still haven't had a chance to rehab it and fix windows and all that. So, but if there's any detail specific to this, we're keeping pretty much everything, adding a lobby addition, re-landscaping the exterior, but that's not really part of the PR. There are no additional structures. I'm happy to accommodate, but I just need you to really be very specific about what you're looking for in the document.
If I understand the comment or the question correctly, I think maybe you were asking for, maybe it might be like another photograph showing, say, a representative window or windows,
exactly.
One type or the other, right? A couple of the types.
So we have documentation of what's being kept and preserved.
Understood. And then some of the sort of plaques or embedments, right? Some of those things, perhaps if that's captured in the photographs of the exhibit, that might be helpful here for the commission, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
Just a couple of additional photos with capture, and that will capture, I think, those things perhaps sufficiently for the commission.
So, yep.
Okay.
And then again, those are things that you and Dan covered some of those things in the slide presentation. You have photographs in the slide presentation here, so.
Okay.
You just went over, so, yeah.
MHC is gonna require up close photographs of the details.
Right, and that's what they're sort of getting at here, is that some of the photographs in the draft right now are overalls.
Yeah,
But
they're
they will
not
be
sufficient.
looking for some of the detailed, zoom ins of those elements. And because we're likely to get that from MHC itself, makes sense to just add those things now, because MHC will be coming back with the same comment anyway, so, right?
They're gonna want up close photographs of each of those panels.
Right, of the panels, yeah.
Of the details of the windows,
Yeah.
of the soffit, everything.
Yeah, so it was like one of the photographs, for instance, in there that was in the presentation tonight that could easily be placed in there as an exhibit to capture some of those, so. Anyway, we can follow up on that detail, or that aspect of it, but I think it might be just sort of adding a few more photographs, of course, to the exhibit. Yeah, exactly, right, that's a good example right there. You could zoom in a little closer, for instance, put this on that, but yeah, exactly.
Does that help you, Mark? Yep. No, I get what you mean, that it's like, we just need a list, yes. Of what it is, like the windows, the copper gutters, the downspouts, everything of what it is. Of what's gonna be on the PR, because there's probably gonna be things that aren't included in the PR, like the new foyer glass windows. I don't think need to go through us, and they need to get repaired, but the windows to the school itself, the 1924 ones do. Is the point we're trying to make. Any other questions, gentlemen? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for this.
And I think the intention here is to come back with a revised, some of these things are addressed, a clean version, ready to go for the commission, hopefully, if it's addressed, I know these questions or concerns, it would be ready for the commission to, vote to support. And then, of course, we would want to transmit that, to the city council and the planning board, they would both need to hear that, so.
So I think you answered my question, which was, there isn't any specific action we need to take on this tonight.
No, and I think the assumption here is that it tweak, with whatever feedback, there's been a couple other comments that have been made, already, so. The idea is with those being incorporated to be a clean version. There are a couple of things that I think, Zaina had made sure was sort of highlighted and called out, because there are things that are being filled in blanks because of at the closing, some of those details will be filled in a little bit more detail, of course, understandably. But those things are all in place, ready to go, so.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And I think what you mentioned about the detail is exactly what I think was one of the comments that was forwarded to us, and an inventory of photos, which we incorporate into the presentation. So I think we're on the same page. I now understand where you're coming from, and we're happy to incorporate all those details into the actual inventory of photos to document existing conditions.
And sorry, Zaina, just in terms of your timeframe for efficiency and timeliness, because you mentioned with the August timeframe and whatnot, are you able, do you think it's reasonable within, say, a week's timeframe roughly, that this would return such that when the Historic Commission meets again on the 25th, that they might be able to take it up that next meeting they're having, or?
Yes.
Do you think okay.
Yes,
So if we were able to come back and have that posted for you commission members sometime next week, you would be able to, at your next meeting, take this back up, see what, hopefully what's all in there, addressed, and, ready 2 weeks from now to formalize it. That makes sense. Okay, so Zena, we'll, and Dan, maybe we'll expect one or both of you, perhaps, at the next meeting, 2 weeks from now to do that.
Okay.
And if you forward along to Caitlin and I that updated version, we'll have that ready for them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next on the agenda, another draft review for number 28 through number 30 Pleasant Street, which is the Unitarian Church.
I don't have a slideshow, but I have the presentation. So this is in response, so Lisa Mead, telling the cost of 30 Green Street on behalf of the Unitarian Church on Pleasant Street. So the Unitarian Church was granted, with your support, a CPA grant to do fire suppression system in both Parish Hall and the Meeting House. So a number of years ago, you might recall that the steeple almost fell down. And so we needed a lot of money, and CPA granted the church at the time a grant, and we required a preservation restriction on the Meeting House at that time. And the Parish Hall was specifically left off because it wasn't receiving any money. And so the red line document that you see here tonight is a red line of the existing recorded approved preservation restriction on the Meeting House. I had a conversation with Michael Steinitz, who reviews all of these at Mass Historic, about how he wanted to deal with Parish Hall, whether he wanted a separate preservation restriction on Parish Hall, or how did he want to have it. He wanted an amended and restated preservation restriction because it's on one lot. And so he wanted it to cover the whole lot, and he wanted both buildings on one lot. So what we did was we took the prior approved preservation restriction, and the red lines represent the inclusion now of Parish Hall in that. The only change I will tell you that I learned about from my client and Glee Woodworth earlier today, there's one book that has that Parish Hall was constructed in 1873, but in fact that was later corrected to be 1878, so I have to change that date in my description of Parish Hall. So essentially the only thing I did was add Parish Hall into it, and all this, the restrictions all remain the same. And then we added the documentation in the back in the exhibits for Parish Hall. And I will tell you, let me just to give you a little background, because there's no work being constructed on Parish Hall right now. This is for the fire suppression system. So if work were to be done on Parish Hall that changed any of the outside elements, we would have to come to the Historic Commission for approval for that work in accordance with the requirements. But how the preservation restrictions work, and this is apropos to the last conversation you had, is that if you go to the exhibits that have the photographs, Caitlin, so I think these are really good exhibits. The first set of photographs. So these are the approved and recorded photographs for the Meeting House. And so if you kind of slip through them, you'll see. So we had originally submitted, it took us about 2 years to get the Meeting House preservation restriction approved, because Michael Science is very particular about the photographs. And so you'll see as we go through here, there are different angles and detail of various aspects and architecture elements of the Meeting House in particular. Yeah, you can just kind of fly through them because as you get through them, you're gonna start seeing some of so you see that all of that detail, he required we had to go back, get a professional photographer, actually Jay did it, and start photographing these up close details. So that becomes the baseline documentation. That's what the restriction preserves, is the baseline documentation, and you'll see these details. So which also includes all of the historic, the Form B and anything like that. And then, if you're doing work, that becomes another exhibit. So like in the Kelly School, we had to have all of these baseline documentation photographs, but then also as an exhibit was the approved plans, which you all approved and the planning board and zoning board approved. And so that all becomes the documentation, and that is all enforceable under the preservation restriction. And so then these are the new photographs for Parish Hall. Michael has not reviewed all of these yet, but he will be shortly. I don't know how that got on one page.
Wait, that's not the Parish Hall there, is it?
Oh, wait a minute, no, that's the back of.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
It's the meeting house.
Yeah, that's still the back of the meeting house. I'm surprised,
Parish.
yeah, there we go. So here's the photographs of Parish Hall, so you can go to the next one. It doesn't have as many fine details as the meeting house, but.
By the way, the copy that was posted, I think, the chairman's first name was missing at the letter F.
Pardon me?
The chairman of the historical commission's name was misspelled. I believe it's BIFF, two Fs.
Oh, okay, I'll check and change that on the signature line.
And while we're paused, is the same question about the subordination clause? Is that active here or not?
Yeah, the church doesn't have any.
Okay. Well, I don't know what these are. Okay. Thanks.
The only other thing that's on the property is preservation restriction. So, and then we have the setting in the rear, and then I think I have one in the front. And that one. So if you approve this, at this point, what happens is I'll send it off to Mass Historic. Michael will come back with comments because he always does. And I'm hopeful that the photographs will be sufficient, but I don't know. Like, if the photographs are like not on the same place in the page and the title isn't on the same place on every page, they come back to us. So Caitlin has seen these comments from Michael Stein. So I try to get it done for him, but inevitably something is gonna come back. We'll do a couple of turns on that. And then when he finally approves it, he'll send back the final letter. And then we'll come back to you for final approval.
Right.
So the approval I need from you right now is that you're okay with this, and I can send it off to Michael and have him review it.
Does require a vote, or is it we just say all in favor?
Oh, no, yeah, well, you don't have to take a roll call, if that's what you're at. You don't have to do every member individually, if that's what you're asking.
Right.
Yeah, because you haven't read the room, so.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Good luck with Mass Historical.
Pardon me?
Good luck with Mass Historical.
Yeah, they're actually, I'm not negotiating in a language, so
Yeah.
they're really good.
Have they gotten any better as far as speed with which?
No. It's still,
Too bad.
I'm gonna send this in, it's gonna take
Yeah.
60, 90, 120 days.
Yes, whatever it takes.
But once the first draft is through,
Yeah.
then they start to go a little faster, but the first draft, it takes a while.
Familiar with that problem already.
It's like a very long time to do each one, yeah.
All right, we're moving down the list here. Next is the approval of the minutes of May 28th, 2026. Somebody like to make that motion?
I'll be delighted to make a motion to approve the minutes of 5/28, including my compliments to the partaker for cleaning up that rather messy motion about, a nice job on that.
I did find it was a little mistake. It was the date of the approval of the previous minutes. I can.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? All right. Andrew Bernhardt,
Yes.
Christopher Fay,
Yes.
Ed Neumer,
Yes.
Glenn Richards,
Yes.
Mark Sedron.
I was absent.
Yeah, abstain,
Yeah.
Abstaining that. Scott Clark? Yep. Okay, and I vote yes. And that passes as being approved. Moving forward, updates from the planning department. There's a couple of things going on. As you know, there's been some ordinance changes.
Yay.
Does everyone know what they are? And
Have you all reviewed the text and looked at the diagram?
in this folder,
This is your new, you know,
Yeah.
process, so yeah.
in this folder are three different copies. First is the new flow chart. Feel free to grab one, and then there is also a copy of the
Well, actually, sorry, can I, we had wanted to, is this, oh, sorry, yeah. We had wanted to make sure that you had a quote clean version, so that you wouldn't have to look at all the strikeouts and underscores and markups of the city council piece. So Diane in our office was nice enough to take and clean it up. Primarily because we have not yet seen it, it's not been posted to Municode where you're going to see, you know, all that stuff. There have been some delays or lags in that stuff, so at any rate, the idea here was you would have a clean version of the text, you wouldn't have to see the markup version of what the council was working with up till adoption. And you would also have the diagram, which is a simplified way of looking at the both, you know, process, so.
Oh.
Yeah, there's three different things.
There's three of them. There's the new flow chart.
Yeah, okay.
That's for your own copies. And there is,
That's the signed markup version, right, of what the
Yeah.
council.
this was the contributing, minor contributing whole amendment is here.
So that's the DOD, right, the DOD is totally separate from.
I got my.
Yes.
Yeah, the bottom two.
As a separate amendment, I guess, just to be clear, it's totally separate amendment, the DOD from the demo delay, obviously.
For all those keeping score, there's a question about contributory, whether it was minor or regular, which was where the whole nine instrument came from. And Center Street came from.
Yeah, so that separate amendment is essentially in the zoning ordinance, right? And this demo delay, you know, clean text is now in your general ordinance, is already building demolition. And that's the one where you're primarily gonna be operating under.
Yeah, the new demo delay. You want to explain a little, the bullet points that was 18.
Minor notes,
Yeah.
when you say bullet points?
Well, yeah, but it's like, it's for, isn't it from house from 1825 and before, it's 18 months and then 1925 and earlier?
No, it was changed to 18 months across the board.
Oh, that's the part I wasn't aware of. How
Well,
about
I'm
that?
glad you asked, because this, yeah, there was some discussion, there was debate, because
Yeah,
it
I
went
was
from,
like,
you know,
what the
3
hell?
years
Yeah.
to 2 years, and it became a spectrum, sort of towards the end, there was a suggestion of maybe a spectrum with, you know. But they basically landed on just cleanly, you know, we're putting aside the debate about the actual length, just cleanly, everything is 18 months. So. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything to that, but just to clarify, and again, that's, so you won't have to deal with the confusion caused by other dates, or for better or worse. But it is 18 months solid for any of these now, as opposed to 12 months, which is what it was up until this.
2 years would have been great. Well,
Let's take 18.
That's the compromise we reached,
There was a raging battle. I was there for most of it, and there were people that just thought it was too much overreach. And, you know,
I actually I appeared before the planning development committee on Monday for my reappointment.
Oh, yeah.
And he was there. as
Yeah.
well. And that question came up, actually, I think Stephanie, took the chance, asked me what my reaction to the changes and so forth, and that whole 18-month thing came up. You know, I said essentially what you said, well, 2 years would have been better, but 18 months is better than a year.
And I think Councilor Nikovich needs some recognition for all the effort she put into.
absolutely. She did a real lot of work.
For the record.
This was, you know, this was. We almost lost it.
I know.
There was a lot of people that didn't like this. And, you know, there was a lot of contributions, from you know, Glenn and Biff, myself, and Mark was there. Tom over here was there for a bunch of it. It was a lot of preservationists and about probably 4 developers and real estate agents that for some reason held the same weight that we had, which was very kind of little nerve wracking. Next question I actually have for planning department, and I mentioned this already about the PRs. Tonight we had a PR that was, from 2009. And the question that we had was, we as historical commission should start, well, one, knowing the PRs and how they function, how they work, and as well as even starting to look at some of the PRs that have come up in the past and maybe reviewing them, maybe doing a site visit, seeing if their house is actually still there. You know what I mean?
It's, actually, that is one of the things that the grantee is granted in all these PRs, I believe, is that they can come in, you know.
With some notice, I mean,
Yeah, right,
yeah,
don't just, right, don't just show up, right, but,
Sure, to monitor the compliance, right?
you know, reasonable.
Yeah,
Visits
to
type
see.
of thing.
And then I guess from our conversation earlier, that most of the more recent PRs are in the data bank, right, on our page that we can look at.
Yep.
And then you said there were some that you'd have to dig around for, possibly maybe older ones or.
Well, and like we saw an example tonight, right, with the one that,
I was saying there's a couple that are still outstanding, you know, like the jail.
Yeah.
Things like that don't really have a time frame to be completed,
Mhm.
for the permits they were given. But that are still being worked on slowly.
there are two that are expected to advance this year, which are the library, and the firehouse, right? Those are on the city side, those are easier, they're not like dealing with other parties, they're on, so, you know.
No forward move on either, two that I was, you know, back when I was chair, was the jail and the Cushing House, no forward motion on either of those.
No, there's a forward motion on the jail for sure.
There is, I mean,
Yeah.
when we say forward, well, I guess when we say forward motion, there's work, there's definitely work being done on it by you know, Chuck's attorney, Joe Rollis, but as we know, there's been years and several rounds of, a number of different exchanges, edits, you know. There's been an even recent exchange with MHC to sort of deal with the format of this particular PR, there's been a little bit back and forth about how that gets structured because of the unusual nature of several properties kind of intersecting with the structures, you know, so. At any rate, there has been progress on it, but I don't know, we would sort of have to check with Jeff and Chuck to find out, are we ready to get back to in here? So.
That is,
wrap that
it's still,
up.
it's with
I
MHC
still have
right
a
now.
pile of papers in my office, stuff like this.
The other question,
2019.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Ken.
The question that come up, that somebody asked me was, some of the PRs that are the 30-year ones, do we know, like, anything about those, like, how many more years are left on any of them?
I think we have to do a little bit of work to dig into that, look at that detail.
There's not many.
Not many.
Most of them are perpetual.
Yeah. Cause that question has been raised to me of like, do we know, it's like, is there, like, for example, this year, or are they 10 years down the road, or where are we at that?
And that was the thing with the Cushing House, and there was an issue with it not being perpetual, and that was one of the reasons it was being redone.
It was updated because it will become, to make it sure it was
So we're gonna make it perpetual, right, and incorporate some additional things about, you know, interior features and so forth. So, that one shouldn't be that difficult to finish off.
No, I
You know.
think Stephanie is currently working on
She's
that.
on top
I
of
think
that,
there's a couple of years left on her existing one,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we should get that done before
Yeah,
the current one
definitely.
runs out.
Yeah.
So if I may add, and I think it's important what you said, Chris, if we are to survey or keep track of these papers, we should have a list of them, status, and those who are pending, and maybe a subcommittee of this commission could take on monitoring this.
Yeah.
So
It's just a
current list of
suggestion.
Yeah.
the presently, on the website is a listing of the present PRs.
Right, we have a list about 40 years old
Okay.
cards on
Yeah,
the site,
that's
there's
good.
maybe about 5 or so that are outstanding.
Yeah.
The thing, I think what I'm envisioning from what you're saying, Mark, is that, okay, like a spreadsheet, okay, here's the property.
Right.
Here's when it was signed, here's when if it expires, when, or, and any other. It doesn't need a whole lot, just a big thing that, you know, and maybe if it was ever, you know, rechecked or whatever, you know, just some very basic stuff. It doesn't have to be real complicated.
I'm thinking maybe if we had formed like a subcommittee or you divide up, it's not something we have to accomplish like in the next month or something, but it's like, they can drive by and look at it tomorrow, it needs to be done tomorrow. But take a look, and then at the next meeting, you can say, hey, I looked at the PR for so-and-so, Washington Street, and it appears to be, same as it ever was, or, hey, guess what, I was looking at it and, they took the chimney down, or there's a something, or whatever.
Yeah, there's a list
There's a list.
Perfect.
Right
Oh, great.
here. Go to your page.
already.
There's a tab
Envisioning
here.
Nice.
Taking it into a spreadsheet. and make
Fabulous.
one of the columns.
Excellent. Excellent, okay.
And as far as we know, that is all the ones that have been,
Yeah, we update and populate anytime, yeah.
All right. Any further questions? How about some concerns? Nothing. How about we adjourn? Someone want to make that motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Hey, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against? Ayes have it. You were thinking. Thank you very much, everybody.
thank you, did a fine job.
Thank you.